All right, good afternoon to all our loyal Twitch viewers. Welcome back, and to all of our new folks here today, very warm welcome to you. Whether you're a first time or a long time, if you're not officially subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, and we will be here for you every Thursday, 3 p.m. So today, I'm really excited about our Twitch. We're going to do something a little bit different. You know, ever since we started this, we've been showing you all about the amazing things that you can build with no code. We even showed you over the last four episodes some amazing features of Unqork that you can build with no code. But whether we like to admit it or not, all of that is made possible by amazing code, right? But again, it's only Unqork that's doing that code, right? We don't dislike code. We just dislike our clients, the enterprises out there having to write code. We want to do that for them so they can deliver immediate business value to themselves as well as their customers. So today we're going to talk about code a little bit. We're going to talk about the engineering department that writes all the amazing code that powers no code and codeless architecture, and get you excited, all the developers out there, get you excited about what we're building, and maybe get you excited to come join the innovation and the revolution that we're creating over here at Unqork. So that's probably the most I'm going to talk during this whole episode, because I've got two great guests today. They're going to help me talk about all that stuff. We've got Dom Piganel. I think I already forgot.
Nailed it.
Since we just talked about it. And Ashley Rosen, who are going to, again, help me out. So Dom, Ashley, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Dom Piganel, as Nick so accurately introduced me. And yeah, I've been at Unqork for a little over 2 years. Been a part of a couple teams. Started out on the workflow team, transitioned over to like an intermediate team, and then now I'm on the module builder team. And yeah, so I'm a senior software engineer for currently the module builder team, where we get to work on like some really interesting stuff. Hopefully you've seen some of the presentations that Nick's given, and get to see some of the stuff that we've built out. And yeah, it's really exciting to be here. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dom.
Cool. And I'm Ashley. I am on our talent acquisition team. So I'm a talent acquisition partner, and I support all of our engineering groups here at Unqork. I've been here coming up on a year now. So definitely still feels like I'm new, but also doesn't. But yeah, it's been a great experience, and I'm excited to be here as well.
All right. Well, thank you both again for joining us today. So let's just dive right in. So, we talk about, we're trying to get engineers excited about no code as well, whether it's building the platforms that enable it, or whether it's actually just realizing the value that it can bring them as an engineer. So Dom, I'd love to hear from you as an engineer. What excites you about no code?
Yeah, it's a loaded question, because there's so much involved. And I like to try to think of it as like two parts. There's like a product side, and then there's an engineering side. And from the product side, I think of like some of my old positions and some of the old projects that I worked on. And, whether it's like tediously like creating like a form or the same cron job over and over again. And I think, like, how hasn't somebody made a better way to do this? Like, why can't I focus on things that I can actually add value to, as opposed to just like doing, pretty boring work, in my opinion. So like I give some examples of like things that are just like so easily replaced by Unqork. And I think of like a cron job. And, this was something I used to do at my last job all the time, where we would have to secure a server. Someone had to maintain that server. Someone had to configure the networks. We had to have somebody who wrote the bash script. We had to monitor the server for security risks, which was just like all the time. And, like I'm describing like 4 positions, 4 different careers that are filled to support this single cron job that's just taking like logs and like dumping them somewhere. And like, well, what's really cool is, last year when I was on the workflow team, we got to, replace that with something we called the timer start node. And the timer start node really just made it to where you can configure all of that in 3 nodes, and not only just configure it, but it's maintained for you. It's scaled for you. It's, really easy to just like slightly change something. And you don't have any like legacy code to maintain, like when there's a new patch of Java out that has some security risk, that's not on you to do. That's part of the Unqork platform. So it really frees up engineers to work on something that like adds value to the company. And I know that's Gary's like biggest thing that, when he's, marketing the company. And I really do believe that. I see it every day. As we're building some of these things, what's really interesting is these are just some simple ideas, right? Like these are just some simple, like, very obviously replaced by some configuration, but we're building stuff every day. Like we're still here adding to the platform. So, you can replace a simple form or something like that, but you can also, tie into what you existingly have. So you don't have, it's not like an all or nothing solution. And I think that's where Unqork really nails it. You can choose and pick like what parts of the platform fit into your current solution. So I think of things like you have a bunch of like legacy APIs and you're not ready to just dump it all into Unqork. You're not ready to invest and like rewrite all of that stuff. So you want to like slowly start introducing pieces. That's what we can offer. Like that's what the company can offer. And as far as like engineering, like I think if you just try to think about it and try to think about how do you build a platform that you can take any amount of pieces or functionality from and plug it into your existing system, that's where like the interesting challenges arise. We have to support like all layers of the web applications through configuration. And like I said before, like you can pick and choose pieces. And then we also have the challenge of making it user friendly and making it to where people who maybe aren't engineers can configure a really difficult and like high-end solution for what they're looking for. As you might have seen, I was kind of tuning in for Nick's presentation of like your Halo game, and I thought that was like really cool. Where like you're not limited to anything. Like you can make a game, you can make like a form, some APIs, and really it's just up to your imagination. So as far as an engineer, that's what like makes me excited. Those kinds of challenges.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Because, you're right. Like enterprises have so much software that they've invested so much money in and have so many processes running on. You can't expect to just come in and one fell swoop, remove everything. So that's that integration, the integration layer Unqork has allows you to do that over time, put Unqork on top, innovate really fast, and then migrate things over as you see fit, because it's going to be able to do the things that you're doing already in a better way, but maybe you're not ready to do it immediately. And also you just reminded me, timer start node, we have to get the timer start node on one of these Twitches. When that came out, like just watching how many processes started to get automated and how that really blew up workflow adoption has been amazing to watch. So Ashley, I want to throw the same question over to you. I mean, you talk to engineers every single day who are looking to join Unqork. What are you hearing from them that excites them, that makes them want to, reach out to you and get through the process?
Yeah, I think that honestly, a lot of what Dom covered, I hear on a daily basis from engineers. I think, a lot of them, they do have that frustration with these old legacy enterprise systems, and they have been in the position where they've been having to work on those old legacy applications. And like Dom said, it is tedious for them. It's monotonous. So I think for them, it's super exciting just, knowing that we're providing that solution that will free up that time to work on more exciting projects. And then also, I think that, no code is becoming more and more popular. It's being seen as kind of the way of the future. So I think that a lot of engineers do get excited about being a part of that with Unqork, and they're just excited about what we're working on and what we're changing at that enterprise level.
Yeah, that's so cool. So not only do they get to build the future, but they're also like doing some philanthropic work by helping all of their engineering friends who aren't as lucky as them to be doing that at least they'll have a better time, in whatever roles they're in. Cool. All right. I'm going to kick it back over to you, Dom. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like, what does a day in the life of an engineer look like at Unqork?
Yeah. some of the exciting things that I would think are maybe some of the more vanilla things. Like we do still have our daily sprint rituals, but and we're still contributing to code. And one of the things that I think you said is it takes a lot of great code to build a no-code solution. So we are coding all the time. We are planning all the time. We work on our 2-week sprints and have our planned roadmap. Some of the things that I think like kind of sets us apart, or at least in my mind sets this position apart from other places that I worked at, is there's just such an emphasis on accommodation and focus time. We have someone joining actually next week, and my entire team right now is on the East Coast, and he's joining from the West Coast, and he's like, "Hey, do we have to meet at like 10 a.m. because that's like 7 a.m. for me, and like I'm not ready to wake up at that time." And everyone else was like, "I totally get that. Yeah, we want someone good to join the team, and I wouldn't want to wake up at 7 a.m. either." So just like the accommodation and the support, that we're constantly trying to focus on. And one of the things that we'd also like to focus on is focus time and getting into like a flow. So, any engineer who's spent a lot of time working on a project and you're 4 hours into it and you've got all these different moving pieces in your head, and all it takes is one person to like tap you on the shoulder, and all of a sudden everything's gone. You have to restart. You have to revamp that mindset. So we're constantly evolving and trying to find ways where, hey, we have to have meetings, we have to discuss, we have to plan, but let's do this accurate. Let's do this right so that you can work without interruption, and you can contribute how what you signed up for. You signed up for to contribute and like build things, and that's what we want you to do. Last 2 years ago, right after I started, the company became remote first, and I didn't think I was going to like it that much. I wasn't super excited about it, but I cannot say enough good things about it. Like we are a remote first company, and the company does invest in making sure that people are comfortable in their remote first lifestyle, and making sure that you can have a culture that you want to be a part of, which is really interesting. My team, we have our camp, actually, we do a game night on Thursdays. The attendance has been a little lackluster recently, but we still do it. We have a couple people who show up, play some Jackbox games, and like something that's pretty funny is we do like a question of the day during our morning stand-up. So anyone who's been like part of those morning stand-ups, which are like 30 minutes of just status updates, and you're just tuning out and just like bored because most of the conversation doesn't have to do with you. We're like normal people. We realize like, hey, that's kind of a boring conversation. This is, it sounds cheesy where we have a question of the day, but actually people like love it. They love to get to know the other people. They laugh at like the answers. They get to know, the people that you work with. So you're not just another face on Zoom. And that's where I think it separates, the positions that you might have worked at the past. Like we really do enjoy each other's time and company.
Yeah. I mean, it's so key, even when you're in the office, to always find starting meetings with a little bit of, casual chit chat and not going right down to business always puts people in the right mood. You really start to learn, one another a little bit better. And like you said, so important in the remote world today, and everything. So it's glad to hear that it's been going well for you, because it was obviously, a big change for a lot of us when it happened. So I want to just like continue down this road. You mentioned culture a few times. You were telling me when we were catching up before this about how you feel like you have such a voice in your day to day. So maybe talk to me more about what you meant when you said that to me, and any other like broader, cultural things, and how engineering works with some of the other teams.
Yeah, I really think it's not just lip service. Like they're all the way up the chain. There are people who are actively supporting culture as part of this company. Like there's no one, micromanaging. No one really cares, like, at least on my teams, like what time you're working. You just show up for your meetings and you're an adult, like get your work done. Other than that, we respect your work-life balance. Like we realize you have stuff going on outside of your job. And, I work with a lot of people who are starting young families, and I see that every day where like, they're I'm sure everybody has that, where their kid like runs into the meeting or something like that. And it is what like you're home, we want you to be like able to spend that time with your kids and your young family. As far as like engineering culture, one of my things that I was looking for when I joined or was looking for a new position was just like a constant investment in learning, and not just technology. Because like, as an engineer, I have a lot of interests. I have a lot of things that I want to explore, and maybe I don't want to, be tied down to just taking a class on, JavaScript or Python or React or something like that. So we've done some things in the past where we'll do like some book clubs or lunch and learns. We have like an O'Reilly subscription, and these things are open to everybody. They're open to like whatever might be interesting to you. We also have like this exchange program, which is really cool. You're not just locked into the position you're hired into, or even the team or camp that you're hired into. I've actually seen multiple times where engineers are saying, "Hey, I don't want to do front end anymore. I kind of want to learn a little bit of DevOps," and they switch over to the DevOps team. And I think you have to be here for like a little bit, but there's a lot of support in making sure that you're happy in doing what you want to do. I have, well, he's not my director anymore, but my previous director would always say, like, we would rather lose you to another camp than to another company. And he's not just saying that. Like, I've seen him actively support moving people to another camp. And obviously you're not just going to learn all on your own. And we have these world-class engineers. I really do think that we have some of the best engineers around. Not just like as far as talent and like how willing they are to put in the extra effort to build a great platform, but they'll take you along for the ride and teach you whatever capacity your mind has to keep up with some of these like really intelligent architects and engineers. They'll take you along for the ride, and you'll learn a lot really, really fast.
Yeah. I think that mobility piece, because you talked about learning, and like there's so much to learn within your own company, and of course there's other conferences and courses and books that you can take, and Unqork can facilitate you doing that. But even with all that's going on in Unqork, so many different opportunities, whether it's in technology to see, like you said, switching from front end to back end to DevOps to data engineering. I mean, those opportunities. And then you see it across the whole company too. I mean, we have folks who started in our professional services arm and then moved over to the platform. We have folks who then moved to customer success. I mean, with the way that Unqork is growing and the need for us to continue to grow and evolve as no code grows and evolves, allowing that and that sharing of knowledge and that that mobility, I think, has been one of the reasons why we've continued to be able to innovate and move at the pace that we have over the last few years. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Ashley, I was gonna try to type this in the Mets private chat to you, but I couldn't get it out in time. Just I don't know if you have anything to add there. I mean, you obviously, I think, talk a lot about our culture to engineers when you're discussing the role in the company with them. Is there anything specific maybe that Dom said or Dom didn't that is resonating really well, or that you think makes it for a great culture here when you're talking to folks?
Yeah, I think that's something that I've firsthand noticed from working with the engineering teams and seeing candidates go through the interview process is just there's so much collaboration within the teams. I think that's a huge part of the culture that I've noticed. People are working together. They're not just heads down. They're really trying to solve problems together, contribute their ideas, and then also with the 10% innovation focus time, where engineers basically get 4 hours per week to work on any projects that they're interested in. Doesn't have to be related to, like their team projects. And the fact that they have that opportunity to just contribute their own ideas and have those potentially even added to the engineering roadmap, I think that speaks a lot about just how big of an impact you can have within the team, and how the culture is really just open to, getting everyone's ideas and having everyone work together as a team in that mindset.
Yeah, I think it's really special you said that, because we're building a platform to develop software. We're building a platform for engineers and for developers. So an engineer here is such an important role, not only to actually build the software, but also to be contributing to the things that we're building, how we're building it, how it's going to be used by somebody, because they're going to have the same mindset of our creator in many ways. So yeah, it's pretty powerful what you can do here. Dom, I don't know if I cut you off. You have something to add there?
No, I mean, you nailed it. Yeah, I totally think, like, sometimes I feel like companies are just saying like we have a 10% time and they're not really doing it. But, I see it all the time. People, whatever they're passionate about, if it's going to add value, you'll get the resources to do it.
Cool. All right. So I want to eventually hear some of the cool projects that you're working on. But before that, even, what are some of the cool technologies that, as an engineer, you'll be working with day in and day out to create some of the cool projects we'll talk about next?
Yeah. So I think what's cool is that we're pretty vanilla. So we're pretty normal. We have React, Node.js, Mongo, a little bit of GraphQL. And I know that sounds like maybe not revolutionary, but what's really cool to think about is we're not relying on like super cutting edge technology to create pretty cutting edge technology. We're building this in JavaScript. And, I think back to before I started here, I would think like, what language would I pick to build out a no code solution? And I think that they started out right. I think JavaScript makes a lot of sense. You want something that's not so strict like Java or C#. You can take advantage of some of the things that JavaScript offers. And I also think back to like some of the people that we're hiring. We don't really care so much if you have experience in JavaScript. We just want good engineers, people who are talented. And I think that goes across the company, really. It's just we want somebody who's passionate and going to work hard and have ideas that they can bring themselves. As far as like other technologies, like we do have a little bit of tech debt that we're paying back. We're actively working on getting rid of some AngularJS, so we're not super excited to still have that part of our platform. But we actively invest in paying back that tech debt. It's not something that you're going to continually build on and then frustratingly bang your head because somebody built something 2 years ago that doesn't really make sense anymore in a language that doesn't make sense. So we will actively pursue getting rid of that so that it makes your life easier. It makes your contributions easier. It also makes hiring a lot easier. It's really hard to hire for AngularJS because it's not a language that's supported anymore. So I think what's cool is the support to transition us off of that and actively pay back that tech debt.
Right. And which then speaks right then back to the value of Unqork is, you all are dealing with that. So, our clients and their clients and so on and so forth don't have to, right? You're solving the technical debt and they're just focusing on business value. So, but again, it's exciting too, right? You're moving to the next great thing. That's exciting. And like you said, attracting the right folks. So cool. So now we talked about some of it, the technologies, and I do think JavaScript is exciting because it runs in the browser, it runs on the server, it runs everywhere. I mean, browser extensions, even native applications. I mean, if you name it, it's JavaScript. So that is exciting in and of itself, even though it's like just JavaScript. It is exciting. So now what are some of the cool things that you might want to tell folks about that you're building then with, JavaScript and some of those other techs you talked about?
Yeah. So what kicked off this huge migration from AngularJS to React was implementing a design system that the company had built. We have this platform UI team full of really talented React engineers, and they built out this really nice and easy to work with design system that was custom. It's flexible enough to do really whatever. I think we should probably open source it at some point. But to get to that point, we had to pay back that tech debt. We had to get us onto React. And I actually think I really enjoy that project. That's something that I work on every day with my module builder team. And I know Workflow is working on the same thing. And just migrating to, a more standard language. Like the nature of the web is it's just evolving so quickly all the time. And, yesterday it was Ember, and then the next day it's, Knockout. And then the next day it's, I think I'm going in the wrong order, but you get the point. So, I really like working on that. We are also not just paying back tech debt. We are actively contributing to use cases, something that product and analytics are really focusing on is time to configure. And you could probably build anything you wanted in any type of web application in Unqork, but it might take you a little while in some of the more difficult solutions, and like some of the more difficult projects. So what's really cool is we do pay attention to analytics and data, and we're making sure, hey, this person took like 5 clicks to do this, and this is a really common use case. How can we make that a part of the product and make it to where they can do it in like one piece of, one component or one node in a workflow? And that's kind of how we get our ideas. We see a lot of people using Unqork, and we're trying to, make it easier to configure and unlock new possibilities. Every day I see something where, some of the things maybe aren't like the most exciting things, but they unlock just so much potential, and people are so excited that finally get this one piece of functionality. Some other projects where we just started another camp, the Run Camp. So the Run Camp is working on a renderer. So previously in Unqork, you had to work, it's kind of, we realized that there's a lot of pick and choose what parts of Unqork you want to use, but you were kind of tied to, making sure that you were using both the designer part of Unqork and the renderer part of Unqork. So the idea now is that you should be able to just use one or the other if you wanted to. If you want to just use the renderer and it's data driven, you can use that part. Maybe you have some APIs that you already want to tie in, and you don't want to go through the designer part of Unqork. So I think that's like a really cool idea and a solution. And when we first started with that, we started from scratch. We were saying, we use React, we use JavaScript. What else is there? Is there a better technology for building out a renderer in React, or building out a renderer than in React? So people were putting together POCs of just like React, Vue, and Svelte. I had never even heard of Svelte before this had happened. And we had a new engineer at the time who was saying, like, I think it would actually work really well. And it did. We didn't end up ultimately going with it, but it's just cool to see these fresh ideas coming in, and you're not just tied to, hey, we're a React shop, you have to do it in React. Like, we are willing to explore different pieces and different technologies to what fits our business case best. I have 2 other projects, if that's all right.
Yeah, come on.
Like, exciting. We are actively hiring development experience engineers. We work in some technology. We work with some technologies like Webpack, and we work with like making sure our tests are running properly and they're maybe running quickly and efficiently. And to have a development experience engineer to help enforce those and build on top of the tools that currently exist, it's just going to make every engineer's lives so much easier and so much better. To not have that foundation of like how to build our platform the best that it can be built, so that you're not waiting 10, 15, 20, up to a minute of compile time just to see like one little change. So I think, just seeing that the engineering department's willing to invest in hiring people to make my life easier is just, I think is really awesome. And the final one that I'll talk about, which I think I would get a lot of ridicule if I didn't mention, is just our codeless architecture. I know it's been mentioned a few times, but that's like really our big initiative. So if you haven't heard, Unqork is trying to work on creating a no-code standard. And what's really exciting about this is it's not just being done in a silo. Anybody can contribute to it. Anybody can contribute, like read the docs, keep up with the standards, contribute their own ideas. And like Ashley said, like we have our 10% time. So if that's something that's exciting and interesting to you, you can absolutely spend, your 10% time to, contribute and to contribute to this initiative, and you'll absolutely get the support to do so.
Yeah, no, Codeless, stay tuned for more and more about Codeless. We'll be launching the Codeless website pretty soon to talk more about what Dom was saying there. And listen, if I wasn't such a no-code enthusiast, I definitely would want to be applying to be an engineer at Unqork, but I'm sticking with my no-code. But that sounds awesome. And I do, so now, I want to hear now from Ashley about, okay, hopefully other people besides just me are excited. Let's talk about how to do that. But we actually do have a question from the audience. So hopefully, maybe Dom, you can field this one. So it says, how do you empower engineers to grow from individual contributors to leaders and managers?
This is an awesome question. I see this, every day, where our managers are mentoring you to whatever track you would like to pursue. And, at some point, what happens at Unqork is you split your path and you decide, do I want a managerial track or do I want a technical track? And you meet with your managers and your director, and, maybe you don't know, hopefully you do know. And if you do know, your managers can help you. But the ideas are that, you have your one-on-ones and you express your ideas on where you see your career going. And we try to stick you with responsibilities that closely align with what your goals are. If your goals are, hey, I want to become an architect one day, I would be willing to bet that you would be put in meetings with codeless architecture discussions. If your goals are, managerial, you're going to get tossed in on interviews, and there's a lot of support for it. We want our engineers to grow. We want them to stay and be happy, obviously, like every other company. But there's a really great culture around mentoring and making sure that you have the opportunities to grow. And especially within the company, we definitely like to hire managers and directors from within and help them grow, because it's a really complex platform. It's really helpful to have management that understands the complexities of what is happening underneath.
Yeah, and I think it's so important too that there's that option to continue to grow in a development capacity. I remember when I was an engineer or was managing engineering teams, there was always this concern that once you hit a certain level of seniority as an engineer, the only place to go is to management. That's the only way you're going to continue to grow and get the raises and the recognition and everything. But then you stop doing what you love, and the company loses a lot of value out of you because that's what you're really good at. So knowing that, like, if you want to manage, that's an amazing thing and will set you up for success. But if you don't, there's still an opportunity for you to grow and evolve and continue to contribute value to the organization. So I love to hear that. Cool. So as I said, Ashley, you're up now. We're going to start throwing stuff your way. So again, I hope folks are, getting a little more excited about, what it is to work at Unqork and to build this, this innovative platform and the codeless architecture. So let's say someone's interested. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about, the interview process at Unqork and how you get yourself in?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that our interview process is a pretty standard one for engineering. Basically, what that looks like is a candidate would, of course, first apply to a role that they're interested in. And then us on the recruiting team, we look through all of the applications that come in. So we would be reviewing the application and the resume. And then, if there's a good match with that role, we would be setting up a call to basically have a conversation with the candidate about their background, as well as, really what they're interested in doing, find out more about, what they're passionate about, what kinds of teams they're interested in. And then after that conversation, where we also would be sharing more about Unqork, what we're working on here, and then also giving them more information about the team and the role. Then for that next conversation, that would be with a hiring manager or senior member of the team. That would be another phone call as the next step. And that's really to just dig in a bit deeper into the candidate's background, get more technical, and then also give that firsthand perspective of what it's really like to work on the team, talk more about the team values and culture. I always recommend to candidates that's a great time for them to ask any questions to that team member to really get that firsthand perspective, because obviously I'm not an engineer, so I can only answer so many questions. And then after that phone call, the next step is a technical assessment. So we use Codeless for that. So that is like a take-home coding challenge. Typically, it's only like 2 or 3 questions that they would do on their own time, not like a live coding challenge or anything. And then after that step is the final rounds of interviews. So in those final rounds of interviews, typically it's about 5 rounds of interviews, one-on-one with various team members. And those are really a mix of coding as well as a system design round, and then also just more of those behavioral questions to get an idea of the candidate's interests, where they see their career growing, and then also speaking more about the team and the roles, responsibilities. So that is basically the process end to end. And then I always, tell the candidate in that final round of interviews, I think that's a really great chance to just meet members of the team, see who you would be working with day to day, and get a better idea of what life at Unqork would really be like from just talking with the team members that are currently there.
Awesome. So hopefully you're going to have a lot more people now coming into this process that you just described to us. So, when you have that many folks coming in, how would you encourage, or how would you advise candidates to stand out when, again, there's going to be a lot of competition for some of these really awesome roles we're talking about?
Yeah, I would say, aside from technical skills, something that we're always looking for is just that excitement and passion for technology. Like I mentioned earlier, with that 10% innovation time, we're really looking for engineers that want to come in and contribute their own ideas to development, and really people that are looking to have that big impact on the platform. I think along with that, another important thing is just excitement about Unqork. I think it definitely says a lot when a candidate comes into an interview and it's obvious that they have done their research, they know our product, they've looked at like our blog posts, our website, things like that. I think that can really go a long way. And then I would say another area would just be showing that they have those collaboration skills. Also, like I mentioned, the teams here are very collaborative. So I always tell candidates before they're going into those final rounds of interviews to just think of those interviews as, like a collaborative conversation. Really try to work with those interviewers as if you're working in a day-to-day team environment, because that's really what they're looking to see. How would you be to work with in that day-to-day environment? How would you collaborate? How would you be open to other people's ideas and working with them? So I'd say those are definitely some big ones that can set candidates apart.
All right, cool. Yeah, you said, doing your homework on Unqork is a big one. So I hope all the candidates will have watched this Twitch. You can quote Dom and Ashley in your conversations and really stand out, because you're a loyal subscriber to our Twitch channel. Cool. So, Dom talked earlier about like developer experience. That's something we're focusing on hiring. So aside from that, or maybe, if you want to add more to that, what are some other the big roles that we're looking to fill right now?
Yeah, that was actually one of them. So you took my role I was going to talk about. But yeah, I would say right now we're doing a lot of hiring at the senior and staff level. So definitely looking for a lot of senior and staff software engineers. I know Dom went into the tech stack earlier, which is a lot of React on the front end, Node on the back end. And we're basically hiring across all of our engineering camps right now. So we have positions open that are going to be full stack or more focused on back end or front end. So I would say at that senior and staff level, we have a lot of openings. And then our other another big one is that developer experience engineer, which is a new addition to Unqork. So definitely very exciting to have someone come in and really kind of define what that role looks like as that first developer experience engineer at the company.
Cool. All right. And lastly, so, we talked earlier about how once you get into Unqork, there's opportunities to move around to find the right fit. But, before you even get into Unqork, you obviously want to, ideally find that right fit from the start. So how do you recommend that candidates find, the right fit of our roles that they're really looking for?
Yeah, I would recommend just going to our careers page. I believe it should just be unqork.com/careers. Taking a look, all of our engineering postings are up on that careers page. And then, whichever one they feel like lines up best with their skill set, they can apply to. And then once we are taking a look at their application, if we think, oh, maybe their skill set actually fits better with this team, we will always bring that up on a call. We always want to find the best fit, not only for our teams, but also for the candidate. So after that conversation on the phone, talking about what they're really interested in, where they're looking to grow their skills, we can always help them find the best fit after they do that initial application.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So I double checked. It is unqork.com/careers. It better be unqork.com/careers. I'd be a little surprised if it weren't. So that's awesome. So we did have another question coming into the comments. So we're just going to jump back to that, and then, we'll wrap it up after that, unless more come in. So if you got more questions, folks, continue posting them. So Dom, you talked a little bit about, the work from home situation, and, Ashley, feel free, please, to share, because look, work from home has hit everybody, right? It's not just engineers. So I would actually love to really hear from both of you about, how, Unqork and your respective teams are keeping morale high and team growth and togetherness, given the way most folks are working these days.
Yeah, it starts with the hiring, I think. I think it starts with hiring the right people. We definitely are looking for talented engineers, but we're also looking for just great people. I really enjoy the company and time I spend with each and every one of my engineers in meetings. And there's a lot of communities, really, I think we have our Peloton community. We have our cats community. Some fun things to be a part of. But like I mentioned before, we try to sprinkle in some cheesy things that our question of the day or whatever. But as far as I would actually really like to hear from Ashley's perspective, because I think the candidates you give us, you make sure that we want to work with these people and they want to work with us. So I would love to hear what your perspective is.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I'm going back to something that you mentioned earlier about East Coast versus West Coast. I'm actually on the West Coast myself, and most of my team is on the East Coast, which I was really nervous about coming in, honestly. I was like, am I even going to be talking with my team members? We're on different time zones. Might have to wake up at 6 a.m. But that's something that I found is awesome at Unqork. I think because we are a remote first company, teams really go out of their way to be accommodating for people and make people feel like they're still connected, even though we aren't seeing each other, on a day-to-day basis, face to face. And then, I think every team has kind of different ways that they bond and everything. My team, we have something called the Music League. So every week we have submit a song that the best throwback song or something like that. And everyone gets very excited about it and a little bit competitive. But it's just a fun way to kind of check in every week and do that. And then we've also done events we did kind of a murder mystery thing that was actually really fun. It was pretty cheesy. We also did one for Christmas. But I think just having those team activities, and then you were mentioning the Slack channels as well, I think definitely makes people feel more connected. We have Unqork from home, apart from the cats one, we have a dogs one, we have a food one. So I think just little things like that can really make you feel more connected with the company, even though you're not seeing them, in person every day.
Yeah, we had the cats, we had the dogs, and then for a while there, we also had the dogs with 2 Gs, which is a Snoop Dogg dedicated channel, because some of us don't have dogs, but we still are one of the dogs. That's all amazing stuff. Also, if folks have been tuning in for a while, you might remember when Roberto was on. We talked a little about Mucho Amor. one of the many ERSGs that Unqork has, which, brings people together either who share some, common, minority, but also for folks who don't share that, but want to support those communities and be involved in it and everything like that. So there's just, whether it's Snoop Dogg or Mucho Amor or music leagues and game nights, it sounds like there's a ton of awesome things and awesome opportunities. So I think that's everything. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure having you both on. I'm so glad we took a little break from, all the building to have this conversation. Thank you again for joining. If there's anything you want to add, or at least just, at the very least, say goodbye to all your newfound fans.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. This was great.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It was it's exciting to talk about this stuff that we do every day. And
all right, awesome.
Thank you for moderating it.
Cool. Yeah, no, happy to be able to do it. Give you both the opportunity to talk, and this will be posted up on YouTube. We'll have other content that we make out of this. So look forward to that. And in the meantime, head over to unqork.com/careers and become part of our Codeless revolution. So thank you both again. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.